G'day guys, how you going? Hope you're all having a ripper evening. I'm going to be doing another review tonight, so hopefully you find this one interesting. It's an Australian horror film released in 2007, directed by Shane Abbess, and this movie is called Gabriel. And the story to Gabriel is as follows. There is a realm between heaven and hell, where two forces battle for our souls. It is called purgatory, and they are the archangels and the fallen. This war has raged since the beginning of time. But now the last of the archangels has arrived, assuming human form to defeat the armies of darkness, restore the light, and end this savage war forever. His name is Gabriel, and he is our last hope. So it follows a very simple synopsis. Gabriel, who is an archangel, he has been sent to purgatory to defeat the evil presence that has taken over mankind. He's assumed human form, so he appears just like everybody else. But pretty soon, the evil presence are aware of his intentions. So he's in a battle with evil in order to save mankind. So whether or not he saves mankind, that's something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because I'm not going to tell you. Now, my thoughts on this film. Being an Australian film, I was really excited. Now, I'd seen this one in the shops for so many years, but I pass up the opportunity all the time because, judging by the cover, I just thought it wouldn't be something I'm into. And I know that's a pretty silly thing to do, because sometimes if you judge a movie by its cover, you're going to miss out on a masterpiece. So I was hoping that I would regret not seeing this earlier, and being a film that took me by surprise. However, it wasn't a film that took me by surprise, and I probably could have done without it. And you out there, if you missed your chance to see this, you're not missing out on too much, because it's a case of being there, done that before. Now, what I really liked about the film, and I think this is a massive plus, and this saved the film from being a disaster. Now, the cinematography is absolutely second to none. Shane Abbess has demonstrated a lot of skill as a director. The film only had $200,000 for its budget, so it was a low-budget film, but it did not feel that way. When I got the film and I realised how big the budget was, I thought it was going to have a very cheap feel, but it actually has a very polished feel, and it does portray itself as a film of a much bigger budget. So that's always a fresh breath of air when you see that some director has the potential and the ability to transform a cheap film into a better looking film. So cinematography was excellent. I did not like the soundtrack at all. I thought, some of it was good, but there were some scenes where the soundtrack really just didn't match it. So it kind of made it lighten the mood up a little bit with some of the action scenes with the soundtrack on there. It kind of lightened the mood up a little bit, and I definitely think that went against what the film was about. The film was a very sad and dark film. It had the same atmosphere and cinematography as the original Crow and Constantine, which is a Keanu Reeves film, in that it's not quite fantasy, it's not quite reality, it's kind of like you're in a bad dream, it's a nightmare. Very, very dark, evil has taken over, there's no sunshine, so you really do get a Crow sort of feel to the film. So fans of those films and fans of those style of films will get something out of this, and you'll appreciate the way the director made it, because it appears that the director was a fan of those films. I'm not saying that this is a rip-off. It has a life of its own, but it is reminiscent in some scenes of classics like The Crow. So cinematography-wise, I thought it was really, really good. Unfortunately, the director, in my opinion, has used all this fancy cinematography and the fancy colouring as a distraction from the fact that it is quite a weak story. Now, it's been there, done that, and it's nothing new. It doesn't bring anything new to the table, and there's no real variation. If you've seen Constantine, you pretty much know how this story is going to unfold. Although it's a different kind of plot, it still runs along the same one guy having to save mankind, and you can kind of you can kind of guess where things are going, because it is quite predictable as well. The acting wasn't bad, but then again, they didn't have too much to play with. The script wasn't very strong, and it really seemed to me like some of the actors were just bored, especially Gabriel, the main actor. They just didn't have a lot to play with, and they didn't get a chance to shine and show off just how versatile they may be. They seemed very cardboard cut out, no emotion, and just no depth, and I really didn't care if Gabriel saved mankind or not. No one was really likable. The villains weren't overly intimidating. They had powers. They had some pretty good eyes, cool eyes going on, which made them look a little bit scary, but on the whole, they weren't terribly intimidating. Yes, they were demons. Yes, they were taking over the world, but they just didn't have a memorable sort of quality to them. The ending, as I said, it was very, very predictable. I knew it was going to happen. I felt that it was a little bit of a cop-out. I felt a little bit cheated. Having said that, it's not a terrible ending, but typical Australian endings have been really good lately. And although this is not a very recent film, I was hoping for an Australian type of ending, but it goes for a Hollywood sort of formula, which is once again disappointing. Not only does it go a Hollywood formula, they also use Hollywood accents. Now, I'm not sure what the director's intentions were. Maybe the actors are in fact American, but I have a strong sense that they are Australian, being forced to speak in American accents, which ruined it for me. Now, I think the way of Australian speaking, the accent, I think it's a pretty cool accent. I don't think it's overly complicated to listen to. So I don't know why this director has chosen to go down to the American accent approach, because when you see the accents, it kind of looks and sounds a little bit silly, because it kind of feels like they're Australians that have been to America for a while, picked up a little bit of an accent and come back, and so you're kind of mixing it between Australian accent and American accent, and it just comes across as odd. And I really hated that, and it has some pride in the Australian way. And if I see an Australian film, you're going to expect Australian accents, so you can imagine my disappointment at that. That wasn't the problem, though. I mean, that's not where it fell down. Where it fell down was in the shallow storyline, the cardboard cutout characters, but the cinematography makes up for that a little bit. But having said that, as a whole, the cinematography doesn't prevent this from being a forgettable film. So I'm not going to recommend it. It's not very gory at all, so gorehounds, you won't like this. It's only recommended for M. That's recommended for 15-year-olds. There's a next step up from that, which is MA, which is restricted to 15, and then there's R18. So it's pretty mild as far as the violence goes. I thought it would have redeemed itself a little bit if it had some memorable gore scenes, but it wasn't graphic at all. And the mood and all that, as I said, you don't care for the characters, so there's no extra added sort of fear. So all in all, it's definitely not an Australian film to remember. I'm disappointed with it, although I only paid a few dollars for it, so I'm not too upset about that. I want to support this director as much as possible. He does have a future. He has a lot of talent, but I just feel that if he put a little bit more attention in the storyline, then maybe he could have made a film that is very memorable. But as a result, very, very good cinematography. It's a very good looking film, but it doesn't have any substance to it. So for those of you who look for something a little bit deeper, you're not going to find it here. But if you want something that's going to remind you of The Crow, and you want to see it for its different and its ambitious filmmaking, then it's worth a rent. But buying it, I wouldn't recommend it. So very disappointing film, but it does have its good parts. So it's not a complete disaster. Alright guys, that's my review. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you later.